The Villain Edit is a book sort of inspired by dating reality TV shows. It's about Jack, who is a somewhat failed romance author who has moved back to her small South Carolina town, and she gets this idea that she'll go on a dating show to boost her profile. It will ultimately sell more books. However, when she gets to the show, she meets a man she has had a previous affair with who happens to be a producer on the show. She also sort of has this storyline going with the bachelor character on the show, Marcus, and is trying to stay on the show as long as possible to boost sales, but she soon finds out that the producers, including her ex, are turning her into the villain of the season, and her whole plan may backfire spectacularly. It's a lot about not just dating reality shows and kind of the havoc I think they wreak on people's lives, but also about our modern pop culture, social media, and the ways that that interacts with the shows as well. Each chapter has an interstitial between it that kind of has a you get what they're filming on the show, and via some asides in the show from Jack, she kind of tells how it was edited or later shown on television. And then you get social media reactions to what's happening between each chapter. So you're sort of seeing it while it's being filmed, and then the reaction while it's airing to the edit that they're actually seeing on TV. Um, I think that's kind of the most interesting commentary, maybe in terms of what I think about the way reality TV show works is in that, just because there's a lot of misogyny, there's a lot of psychological language babble that people use, they pick up off the internet and then they use in talking about these shows. Probably my favorite one, it's pretty dark, but there's a scene where Jack's with her family, which is something that traditionally happens on these shows. They go film with their families. And then you get this nice scene where, she's with the people who love her. And then after that, there's some Instagram DMs that come from watchers of the show that are just really vile, disgusting stuff, which I know, like, in my research, I know that's something that the contestants on this show deal with. Just death threats, horrible things that they get, just for the way that they're maybe shown being. Even if you're doing something kind of rude on a show, I guess I like at the end of the day, are you better than the person who does the rude thing if you're sending them threats on social media? It's a questionable thing, I think. And I think that's what's the interesting thing about the book. People have asked me, do you think Jack is really a villain? You can't write a book about called The Villain Edit and not have the character do anything bad that absolves them of any blame in anything that happens to them. That's not interesting, right? If they're just an innocent victim and getting pulled around by their nose, then your character has no agency. Um, so I think they have to have some autonomy too. It's not, you can't fully take that away. You can't take away the fact that they go on this show. So when people ask me, is there something I should take away from the book? I'm like, please just have a good time. That's all I really want for you to do when you're reading the book. But if it makes you think more critically about the media you watch, I think that's a good thing. That doesn't mean that nobody ever goes on the show and does anything wrong or is questionable, but it does mean that maybe you're not being shown the full story and everything. Like in so many situations, context matters, and this is a place where context is totally removed. And you're given, I think what one thing that was so interesting to me is having Jack, who's an author, so she kind of understands like story beats, and then understanding the producers and the editors of the show, their whole job is to tell a story. So even them, I'm not necessarily like they're the most evil people alive. They have jobs, and their job is to make people watch television. So I think we're all kind of cogs in a machine in some way, which again does not mean we don't have autonomy, but we're cogs in a machine that is to produce entertainment. So we all are somewhat complicit too, right? When we watch something like this and we take it at face value, we're also complicit, and we're having conversations of, oh, can you believe so and so did this on the last episode, or like, oh, she's horrible. We still are not, fully understanding the big picture. And so it's not like putting the blame on anyone. I just think it's the machinations are interesting to unpack. And the way we react to it. Having conversations with our friends, I don't think is necessarily, there's anything wrong with that, even if you are maybe misunderstanding some things that are happening. I think it's when when it becomes directed at the contestants or directed at real life people. When you forget that people are human beings with emotions and families, things like that is where things get really messy.